And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Some games come with a gimmick. Chimera Station is one of those. This is a worker placement game in which you're going to be putting workers out on the board. And in this game, all your workers are aliens. But the gimmick of this game, and when I heard about it, I was very excited, was that you could modularly add modules to your workers. So you're putting different parts in that would make them act differently as you put them out on the board. Sounds good. It's from Tasty Minstrel. They know how to make a good Euro game. Let's take a look. There are 4 different factions that you can play in this game. You can play the weirdos, the toughies, the eco-friendlies, the brainiacs, each with their own color. Each of these has an A or a B side on it. The B gives you a special ability and gives you a research track, makes it slightly different. When you play, you're going to start with a certain number of workers based on the number of players. So this would be in a 3-player game. And you have a chance to get more workers. Much of that's going to be done through this research track. As this gets pushed up at certain spots, it can give you more workers. And so you're going to be able to use these workers on a player's turn. Actually, before the game starts, each player is going to get a starting resource card. So whoever goes last gets to pick first. So let's say we're playing a 3-player game. These would be the cards we look at. So I might pick this one here. This gives me 3 coins. So I put some coins here in my money area. And I get one of the leaf modules. This is a green module. And I place it here. Once players take their turns, there's going to be 5 rounds in the game. Players are going to take turns placing their workers on different modules that are on the board. These are already printed on the board. As the game goes by, more modules will be built that you can go into. And when you go into these places, it will give you benefits. For example, going here will give you 2 coins and 2 food. Over here, like the refinery gives 3 money, the hydroponics gives 2 food. Here you can pay money to get different pieces here. So these here are important because they're going to change your workers. These genetic components you'll be able to get from over here or other places. Like you'll notice in my game here, I'm starting with 1. And if you send a worker to the worker splicing lab, they're going to be able to take one of these and put it on them. So you just pull these apart and you'll add this here to show that your worker has that leaf component as part of him. And you can have 2 of the same components. So maybe later on I get some claws and then I get some more claws. You can only have 2 components for the most part. There is a special card that lets you have 3 on one of your people. But you can also have different components. So maybe this guy here, he has claws and he has brains. So I place them like that. And so when you place these out, you're going to have special powers based on them. If you have a brain, when you're placed on a module, you're going to get the points of that module. That's what brains do. If you have claws, when you go somewhere, you can push someone else off it. So if there was someone else on an area, you can go there and kick them off. And they just go to the workers' lounge. And the workers' lounge is kind of like that place where you send someone to get a food or a coin. If you have these yellow claw, or these, what are these called? Tentacles. Whenever you go to a spot that gives you resources, you get 1 extra resource. And if you have the green leaf module, you don't need to feed your workers. See, at the end of each round, you need to pay a food for each of your workers. If you can't pay a food for your worker, they have to lose one of their modules that's on them. And if they have no modules, then you lose 2 points, which you don't want to do. So the game is going to be about building these guys up, but it's also about slowly building up your whole area here. As you build it, you're going to be pulling these tiles from the reactor, and eventually someone's going to fill the reactor. As more tiles get pulled, you'll notice that when someone fills it, they're going to get a bunch of resources. This person's going to get a point, a food, and a coin. If you let it go all the way, you'll get a ton of stuff from the reactor, but that probably won't happen. Players will be able to put different tiles in. In fact, each player's starting resource card, once per game, they can discard any number and replace them once, if they don't like what's there. But as you place these out, when you place it out, it's going to give you points. And in rounds 3 and 4, double points. And in round 5, triple points. So you're going to get points. And then they're going to do different things. When you place them on the board, you also get bonus based on where you place them. So like this one here will give me a point, a coin, and a food. This one here lets me pull one of my workers back to use again. This one here gives me a brain module. So you're going to be placing these out, and then players will be able to go there and use them. Players are also going to be getting these cards here, and these cards are kind of useful because they are things that only you have. So these perk cards, this is a place that only I can go to. So when I go here, I get a coin for every gold bordered module in the station. And at the end of the game, I get 9 points if I have the most money. These cards often come from moving up on your research track. So that's basically it. You're going to put your workers out, doing the different modules, using these built-in modules, putting more modules out here. One of these command slots is closed at the beginning of the game, but it will open up and players can go onto these spots, which give you points for tiles that other workers are on. And this one here also gives you the start player token, which is a big deal. You go here to upgrade your workers. You go here to refill the reactor. And you just keep doing this. And at the end of the game, you're going to add up your points that you've gotten. Plus, you'll get bonus points for every 2 food or every 3 money, although that could change based on the B sides. For example, the B side of the Toughies gives point for every 2 coins rather than 3 coins like everyone else. And they also have different special abilities. Like here, the Toughies, whenever they have a double called person displacing an opponent, they get a food or a coin from the supply. And I also should mention that when you have one component of a type, you get a special ability, but if you have 2 of the same type, you get even more. Like 2 greens gives you an extra 2 food every round. I guess they're eating him? It's kind of gross if you think about it. But that's the way the game plays. Most points is the winner. The components for this game are very good. I mean, obviously the one thing is that, pulling these modules off, but they kind of snap together and come off pretty easily. It's a little tight, but I'm not opposed to that tightness because that keeps them from falling apart as you move them on the board. They have a good visual look to them. Even if they're different colors, they have a different look. So if let's say you're colorblind, red and green, you can still tell the difference between claws and the leaves on them. And they're fun. They can also rotate and stuff. They just look little cool aliens. And also you can instantly tell what they are as you place them on the board. Now at the beginning here, I talked about the gimmick of putting these modules on. It is a gimmick, but it's a good one and it works well. There are many worker placement games out there, but the thing is, most workers are the same. They are not the same any longer. So you have to sit there and say, what do I want to do? The claws are good because you get to kick people off the spots that you go to. Well, that's pretty handy. It means you never have to worry about, is that spot open or not? You can just go there. The leaves are really handy because you don't have to feed your workers. Maybe you're someone like me, and if you play with me, you'll notice I put a lot of leaves in my workers because I don't want to feed my workers. Eat yourselves. I guess that's what they're doing. Or maybe they're getting sunlight. I don't know. But I like that concept. The brains, that's a good way to get points. Every time you go to a spot, you're getting points. You're just consistently racking up your points as you put them out. And then the tentacles, where you're pulling in extra resources, can give you a leg up on everyone else. So which is best? Well, as far as I can tell, none of them. Now, I do prefer playing with the B sides, very much prefer playing with the B sides of each sheet because you start with one guy who has the ability of your faction, which is nice because you start out right away. But you'll find that you're consistently putting these on. And be careful, you don't want to put these modules on too fast because if you don't have enough food to feed people, you can spend all that work to put it on and then be forced to take one off and pay for your food that way. And that's not as thrilling, right? So you have to watch out for that. And this is definitely a game that has a few choices in round 1 and really expands. If you start building the station quickly, and I recommend that you do because of the bonuses it gives, you'll start having a whole lot of different areas to place your workers. And as time goes by, even though you're adding more workers to put out, you are definitely going to have even more places to put them. The starting resource card is a great idea. It lets the person in last. It's one of my favorite ways to mitigate who goes first, right? I'm going last, but I get to pick one of these resource cards, and they all look good, but I'm going to pick my favorite of the bunch. And if you're going first, you get stuck with whatever's left over, or you have fewer choices anyway. The money is important because you need to use that money to buy the modules that you put out there. So there's this constant resource, and resources in this game are scarcer than you think. You are hunting for money and food. So maybe you should get the tentacle pieces, or maybe you should buy the leaf pieces. And at the same time, people are always going to where you want to go. Well, then I need those claws. And that's good. And then you can have 2 of the same. I might put claws on the guy and food. So I don't have to pay for him. And he can push other people off. But if I have that double claws, it gives another bonus. So it's kind of intriguing how the double of something gives another bonus. Like the double brains, for example. When you go to that command module in the middle, not only do you get points for other workers, other players' workers, you also get points for your own. So knowing that you're going to go there, you can place workers on high point scoring things and score a lot of points that way. But maybe I would rather have a brain and a claw on the same worker. And those kind of decisions are fascinating. When we first were doing this, we're like, oh, look, there's 5 rounds, you have 3 workers, that's 15 choices. It's a lot more than that. And also, when you place a worker in the worker splicing lab, you get a piece put on them, and then you can place them, which is very similar to a concept in Lords of Waterdeep. Now, there's not as many places to put them out there, but it's like you get to put out 2 different things. And if you notice, there's only 3 spots in a worker splicer lab. And if you're playing a 4-player game, that means each round someone's not going to get to put people on their, add components to their workers. So there's this back and forth fighting to get your people in different spots. Very enjoyable game. It offers, I think, some really deep strategy. It's going to be different because those command modules and the perk cards are going to be different as they come up each round, and more perk cards come out. The research track, are you going to run that research track to the top and start offloading points that way? Or are you going to put out the modules of the station and get points that way? Or use workers with brains on to get points? There's a lot of different ways to get points in this game. I like it. It feels good. Like I said at the beginning, it had a bit of a gimmick, but that gimmick is solid. It also makes sense thematically. These are aliens that you're grafting weird pieces onto. A really refreshing worker placement game, and one I enjoy a lot. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.